Hearty welcome to all the viewers of Biophilians Kitchen. I'm Anuradha.
I am Sailata.
I am Kaimakirat.
Today, we'll be discussing in detail why non-vegetarian food is a big no with Dr. Khadar sir. Before starting the discussion, we'd like to say a few words about him. Dr. Khadar sir has been working relentlessly for the well-being of humanity for over 2 decades. He has been visiting several places tirelessly, both in India and abroad, creating awareness about food, health, farming, and environment. Today, on this day of Guru Purnima, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Khadar sir for his selfless efforts. Welcome to the discussion, sir.
Namaste, sir. Welcome, sir.
Namaste, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
So one of your quotes says, "Beware, man's birth is not meant for meat eating." Basically, humans evolved from animals which are meat eaters and survived on hunting for a long time for food. Could you please share your view on it, sir?
Yeah, your statement lacks some data in between. Human beings evolved from animals is a statement coming out of Darwinian's theory. But it's not necessary that the theory is correct. And we all actually have been not evolving, we have been created directly. And this evolution theory is actually an incomplete theory, and there are not many evidences that the theory is correct. Two, even if you agree that it is okay, it is true, and it is the theory that has happened and the humans have evolved from monkeys, what is the proof that they were meat eaters? On the contrary, there is an anthropological study, and recently, I think back as in 2010 or so, 2010, yeah, there has been a study, an anthropological study showing that the coccus, the teeth and the gums of the Kadaba discovery. It is a place called in South Africa, African continent, Kadaba. The anthropological studies, the diggings and the reminiscence of all this have clearly shown that the C4 grasses and C4 seeds have been preserved intact in the caucuses of the mouth, gums, all such evidences have been clearly recorded. It is that the people of late have been totally dependent on meat eating, and 97% of the world now is meat eaters. The theories that clearly back up this meat eating concept come onto the forefront of our focus. In fact, before the human being started hunting, till he found out the weapons and then started moving and things like that, there has been millennia of time in between where he was just a gatherer of natural resources of the forest. And he didn't even hunt, he didn't eat, because his movements are slow. I mean, in fact, we are the slowest animal, I should say. Moving, and we cannot be like cat or a leopard or a lion or something like that. And it's been very difficult for the early human beings to hunt, to even catch a rabbit for that matter. And the wherewithal to hunt. Now we are hunting big whales in the deep oceans. As we evolved with the technology and the machines and missiles, all these destructive technologies have come, and then you are becoming stronger and stronger against all the animals and the elements of nature that we think we are gaining upper hand. And so the history of human race has been much more, which is not recorded long ago. So all those years, even before they recognized that a seed can grow into a plant, even that knowledge did not exist. And what did they do? They were actually, all human beings on all parts of the planet were only vegetarians. And this fact has been conveniently missed by all the so-called scientists, which are Western. According to me, this science in its true sense is all that we are talking is Western science. And that is the only thing that is established as a super system on this planet right now. So science means whatever the Westerners said is science. And that science is completely unscientific, which people are nowadays recognizing slowly and steadily. And of late, the research of human physiology and a lot of deep studies in the internal systems of many other animals also clearly point out to have this omnivorous capacity, which is actually developed by human race as the time went by. But intrinsically, we are all designed by God as vegetarians. And there are many, many supporting evidences of late people are recognizing. Most important of it is the pH of our digestive tract. The acidic pH is created on that particular moment of the food being delivered into our stomach, but otherwise the whole pH of the system, the cells and many physiological reactions is basically basic, P-A-S-I-C. So the pH being 7.2 to 7.3, and if you go below 7, it becomes acidic. And even if it is acidic, most of it is mildly acidic, up to 6.3, 6.2. Though we have concentrated HCl being released in the initial dissolution of many of the food particles, it is a microenvironment created. Whereas if you take serious carnivorous animals, you have a pH of below 5, sometimes even 2 in big birds like eagles and such real carnivorous animals. So this is the basic facts that the present day scientific books or authors are not looking into, or rather not comfortable talking about, because the system now geared up is to make meat in different forms, different animals, and with the biotechnology rushing in the last 40, 50 years, it's all industrial food farming, nothing else. So this is the story of non-vegetarian bias. I would call it, it is not science, this is bias. So our eyes are blunt, completely covered with this scheme of agenda by this particular concentrating the whole issue of meat eating as the best thing. And in fact, there are few funny scientific myths that there are some particular amino acids that are not at all available in the human body. You got to supply it from meat thing. Some few amino acids, one or two, I don't remember in particular. These theories are all kind of hogwash, according to me, because people have not yet recognized the importance of microbial symbiotic living of our intestinal microbes. And all the animals have these intestinal microbes, especially many herbivorous animals like cows. They have different set of stomachs and different microbes set in different parts of their body, their gut. So a lot of such things have not come to the forefront or focus of the scientific studies because it is very convenient. I'll give you one very simple recent example. these Americans and Europeans do not have the problem of malaria. So they have not studied anything. They don't even have drugs manufacturing in their pharmaceutical companies. When all of a sudden, for a time period, France scientists said that these COVID problems could be actually set in, and hydroxychloroquine, that is a malaria drug. All of a sudden, everyone started looking at India because India is the only country which has been producing this. So you see the bias that I'm talking about is into such great extent, it is driven into this Western scientific world. So whatever requirements that they need, that is what is science, and that's all they do research on. So you understand the problem of this Western scientific industrial farming culture has produced all these studies. And on the same note, there is a problem with the oils, that they all have been giving bad rap to the local oils, like groundnut oil, coconut oil. They're all not good for you, and saturated, unsaturated, omega acid, this acid. All these studies have been completely on biased agendas and created a market for their products. And their agenda has been to keep everything in their hands so that the whole human race consumes what they are giving as products. And now it is actually attenuated to a greater extent with this GMOs coming into picture. And I will not be surprised after 10, 15 years, the scientific world keeps harping that GMOs are better than natural products. I will not be surprised that these books and these scientists will talk in that tone. And because you can see now they're all talking that vitamin B12 is not available for vegetarian people, which is absolute, complete bogus information. Vitamin B12 is neither made by any animal. It is actually prepared and synthesized by microbes in our gut. And so there has not been much scientific studies on this interaction of microbes and human beings. Just for an example, forget about all the other animals. And most of these veterinary doctors of late in the last 30, 40 years, the veterinary science in codes is basically to produce this unnatural meat. I mean, the whole veterinary science, they are not doing things in the right spirit. They're all working towards producing meat in large quantities. And whatever they are talking, whatever they are doing is all with this basic agenda. So how can it be a science? There is a bias in their experimentation, collecting data, all these detailed, impartial, and basic observations have been completely with a biased eye. So that is, I think I have answered your question. So, and I've given you a lot of examples also. So that I'm not actually saying that we have to start, when you do a scientific study, with a clean slate, that we do not know anything. And that has not been the case in the last 100, 150 years. So all the information that is generated is completely biased. So now, and Indian scientists, there is no like Indian scientists. Because see, India, the knowledge generated is in a completely different dimensions. And if at all there is any country which claims that vegetarianism is the food pattern or food practice should be for human beings, it is only Indian continent. Only in India that concept has evolved. And all others now are picking this. Veganism is all these recent developments. But the concept of vegetarianism, that the human being should not consume meat or animals, has evolved on a different platform, different concepts. And I believe the word science has now become very restricted and very, very partial, not actually being impartial. So these are a few thoughts on this concept of non-vegetarianism of human beings. See, we have been turned into omnivores, though we are basically designed. And of late, we have seen a lot of evidences that man-made diseases like cancer, diabetes, hypertension, all these can be just set right in a matter of 3 to 5 months with following the proper food patterns and practices. So it's not only me. There have been many people who are doing in this line, studying all kinds of issues. But apparently, I seem to have a complete picture of what to eat, what not to eat, how not to eat. All these things have been clearly studied and experimented upon the so-called sick people, bringing them back to health and then maintaining their health for long periods, not just for scientific publications of 6 months, 1 year or something like that. So all these even scientific publications in the Western world is so much biased that if an Indian scientist writes something, it is not accepted even today. So only these Europe or American established systems have to accept. Only then it becomes science. Otherwise, it's all anecdotal, or here and there people are saying this. This kind of comments have been passed on by the so-called judgmental scientists of the Western world. So they're not really understanding the width and breadth of the physiological interactions that are going on in our body. And they have been studying according to their convenience and according to their economic model compulsions. That I am so clear and convinced. And that's how I left the Western scientific platform and came back to India last 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And I have been actually, though the training of being scientist, I have published a lot of papers in the so-called Western journals. And so I know what I'm talking about, the science being what it is. And so I actually have transcended this lab science and then gotten into the real world science of treating people as people, not studying on animals, dogs. And dogs' physiology is different from animal, and guinea pig physiology is different from human bodies. But they're only doing trial and error. And even today, you see, we are suffering. They are still searching for a vaccine on COVID-19, Corona-19. What kind of science is it? Lakhs of people are dying and they're still thinking, this is science, we are waiting for vaccine. When will it come? And already there have been this kind of studies, vaccines have come, and they have not worked for the diseases that they have been intended to. And every year, lakhs of people are dying in Europe and America for simple cold and cough viruses. So they have flu season. They keep on taking these shots, flu shots. Nothing is happening. And you see, these are all there, and no one is talking about them in the context that we are all actually supposed to be looking into seriously. This is the problem with the present day established science of allopathic medical system. And biological sciences have been actually sabotaged by these people. So that is my answer, I think, in nutshell. And maybe I have answered more than what you have asked for.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And coming to the current pandemic situation, now in most of your recent talks, you have been saying that the non-vegetarian food is the main reason, the consumption of the non-vegetarian food is the main reason for this. So could you please kindly elaborate on this too, sir?
It is the two-way process. It is the production of the animal meat for human consumption has been enormously on a centralized industrial basis in all countries, including India. Of late, India has also joined the bandwagon of producing meat in the artificial and in industrial way. And we have seen so many examples. What I meant is that it is not eating meat alone. It is the meat by itself is the source of viruses. See, including 1918 Spanish flu is the source of a virus is the meat. And plague, source of the virus is rat meat. So now chicken is for bird flu. mad cow disease is from the cow in Europe. They burnt millions of cows. And in Mexico, the so-called swine flu. They burnt lakhs and lakhs of pigs. And we have been affiliate in India burning chicken every year, everywhere, all places, in the name of bird flu, H1N1, H5N1. And then recently we saw something called Nipah and Ebola. All these are connected to meat. And what more evidence do you want that these infectious diseases are all generated because our connection to meat? And China now comes up with, see, there is some theory that America has given this, these are all biological warfare. Even if it is biological warfare, things are coming from meat. Simple. See, it doesn't matter whether it is biological warfare or this or that. Everything is generated from the meat. And how does a virus get generated? I am actually going back. In fact, the source of the problem started when we discovered light, the so-called light, artificial light. And that light, the usage of light, the electricity by human race has caused enormous stress on the animals that live in different parts of the planet that live by night. And I do not know, people may not be complete, and there's not much study done by anyone seriously about the circadian cycles of, that is, biological systems. That is night, day is day. You cannot argue with these two basic facts. And day, we cannot see in the night. So what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to lie down and sleep. And there are animals which can see in the night very well. They are supposed to be roaming around in the night in the forest and then hunting and doing whatever they can, and they should, which is being actually the problem, that now we created light in the nights. There is a stress for all these Nishachara, we call them Nishachara. Nisha means darkness. They move around in darkness because they can see, we cannot see. We don't have infrared spectrum gadgets, whereas they have ultraviolet. They have, we don't have. Some of them have different patterns, different technologies in their system God has created. And so we need to understand what is our hardware and behave like one. But then what are we doing? We are creating artificial because of the intelligence that we think we have. But then we are losing the wisdom of not doing certain things. So it's not good enough, you're smart enough. You should be wise enough too. So the human race has actually been unnecessarily, unwantingly, without understanding, has been using this electricity, radar, Wi-Fi, microwaves, radio waves. All these have been created artificially and have been putting pressure on many other different organisms on this planet. And this stress alone can cause viral generations from the animal bodies, including human body. When you're stressed, you would generate some viral infection. It may not, that's actually a toxic material that you want to get it out. And once it gets out, it can start replicating, doing its business in different ways. See, luckily, right now, corona can be killed if you are washing your hands with soap because there is the top fat layer. What if there is a different layer, which is a protein layer, which is not destroyed by washing with soap? Then you are much more into deeper troubles. HIV, it's contacted only through sex or blood transfusion. Lucky for us, for human race. So see, like this, internal regulations have been there. So the viral body, and now you can see it's so obvious that we are actually generating huge number of chicken or huge number of pigs and cows in simple, small rooms with a 10 by 10. We are just jamming thousands of birds in small cages. And how do you think they're all going to be healthy? And there is a lot of infections, and they themselves are producing viruses, bacterial infections, secondary, tertiary infections, all these things to take care of because of business. They're pumping antibiotics, steroids, all these things, and you are again consuming. So now you see one stress to different stress. Now you got chemical stress, you've got vibration stress, you've got mental stress. All these things are the reasons why you are generating viruses. It is not just like that they're coming. So naturally, when there is a stress, there is an elimination of toxic morbid waste. One of the forms is chopping of small DNA so that you create a better environment, or RNA for that matter. So these are all the things are there. The concentration of the research is, oh, after you get what to do. But before you get, we can do something. If we can eliminate all this, that's why I keep telling in all my lectures, you have light, you have radar, you have all this. And I keep telling for giving a telling effect that you please keep your smartphones and tablets and iPads, all this, where your shoes are kept. Because that's where they should be in the night. Otherwise, you will not get good sleep. They are all troubling your brain patterns. And all these issues are there. Are there people doing research in these dimensions? No, absolutely not. So this is the problem with human race. Whatever suits their businesses, they do some research, collect data according to their needs and convenience, and then they call it science. So there is no science that is being done unbiased. See, now that hydroxychloroquine is a simple example. Because wherever there is need, oh, India has malarial cases, so we kept producing those chemicals. And all at a sudden, they found it is useful in this kind of infections. All the world wanted hydroxychloroquine, and India started supplying it. Can you believe this? This is the lopsided scientific attention that each country is giving. See, ultimately they have made an economic model out of even doing research is a big economic stuff. You need to have this. So these are the problems that the present today established system is facing in understanding the real things. So we need to have different set of parameters to do the real science. Yeah, that's where the problem is now.
Yes,
so COVID-19, next another viruses, maybe more complicated virus could arise in future if we do not set our table clean right now. And these are all the warnings. That's what I believe. I keep telling that this is a trailer, not the full movie. Full movie is yet to come.
Yes, yes, and here a question arises that now we have come to know that the meat is the source of the virus.
Yes.
So, but few people argue that we are cooking at a high temperature.
Yeah,
so doesn't the virus get here?
That is the stupidest argument anyone can hear. You see, it's not a living thing. See, once it finds itself into a living cell, then it starts unfolding its dance. So basically, viruses cannot die. I can tell you the so-called Chernobyl incident. Lot of viruses are still there. I mean, what more do you want? Chernobyl, it is radioactive blow up.
Nuclear.
Yeah. So they survive. They survive. You can put in microwave. You can put it in oven at 300 degrees.
Even volcanoes.
Yes, absolutely.
Volcanoes
So,
have.
yeah, so there are a lot of microbes that can survive. Leave alone virus, even bacteria. There are some bacteria which can go through. In fact, just think of our intestinal microflora is going through the stomach where there is a lot of acid condition. That means if you supply 1,000 bacteria, out of that 990 may die. There may be one or two which just pass through and get the information, and then they have survived this acidic stress. So that's how they create small pieces of DNA or RNA in learning things and then surviving and attempting to grow. And I don't want to use the word mutate. They're actually naturally earning the capacity to deal with the stress and strain that is being presented to them. So that's exact point. What you have asked is actually the answer.
Yes, sir. But sir, is it okay if we consume the naturally grown chicken
Animals.
or
Okay, chicken.
yeah,
Yeah. No, actually, no, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not. Including eggs. And see, these are all not human beings' food. And of course, there are the topsy-turvy arguments saying that you need protein, you need this oil. It is present only in cod liver. Vitamin D is. See, they are making for themselves. You also have to make for yourself. So you don't have vitamin D, you better go and sit in the sun for half an hour. You will make your vitamin D. You don't have vitamin B12, you just consume the probiotic food that we have actually told human race without its knowledge have been consuming the fermented porridge. And they have found they were very healthy. And so they never gave up that particular processed food. Processed, I mean, not the present day processed food. They were also processing, isn't it? I mean, this process is a generic term that I'm using. So they knew they have to soak, they have to cook, and then keep it for. Actually, what they used to do earlier days is that they were actually digging a pit 2-3 feet and put it in the underground. And they used to have markers where they have dug and hidden the stuff. In fact, they used to do in bamboo bottles, just bamboo bottles, they used to pour the bajra. Even now in Gujarat and Rajasthan. Yeah.
Araku Valley also, sir.
Araku Valley also they do. So all these patterns that are left out of the earlier days clearly point to a beautiful scientific way of doing things, and they have become traditions. And they have been followed for a long time. And of course, no one has published a paper in so-called scientific journals, but that doesn't mean that it is not science. It is perfect science. So they have been filling their tummies with this wonderful probiotic food, and hence vitamin B12 is there, and many other physiologically active, important biochemicals have been supplied. Just we know about vitamin B12. And there are many more that human knowledge has not spread across in the internal world of our human physiology. There are many more things that we need to learn, many more experiments that we need to do impartially. So this interaction with microbes and human cells is a vast knowledge that we actually lack. We are just beginning to understand, and only in the last 15-20 years these studies have been initiated. So enormous amount of knowledge to be accumulated, a lot of experiments to be done. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Have
yes,
I?
sir. And
Yeah.
yes, sir. And actually, I wanted to ask. I mean, after listening to your few lectures in Telugu, you have been talking about how the foods like soya and the sweet corn, they have been genetically modified and they are given in the form of feed to the poultry.
How does the consumption of GMO foods affect these animals?
Naturally, chicken have been not given soybean. Basically, in India, only lot of, in fact, all these guys took all these animals from India only. The chicken, the pig, the things, the cow. I mean, Americans don't even have cows. They don't even have cows. So all things are exported from here to start with, and then they convert into artificially high yielding, high this, that, and all that. But in India, people have been living with these things. They have domesticated. I'm not saying that there are no meat eaters. There have been meat eaters. The so-called habits have come. But then it's our luck that some of the people in India have also been impartial and then started looking at it in a different way. And the so-called non-violence, ahimsa paramadharma, and even before Mahavira, many Sanatana Dharma sadhus, sadhakas have clearly stated that we need our teeth arrangement, molar, mandibular, our movements. All these things are pointing towards the herbivorous nature of our human system. So we need to be very much aware of that. I am sure, I understand and agree that the omnivorous nature of human beings is a generated one. We are not meant to be omnivorous. We are supposed to be herbivorous. I do agree and acknowledge the historical fact that human race has been eating meat for a long, long time. But that long, long time is actually a very short time when you compare the earlier time, which is much, much longer. So all these so-called meat-eating practices have been for a very short period, and we need to look at it going into future. It's an aberration, and then get back to natural way of eating. Understand this? That there has been a long tough time where human beings were vegetarians and then slowly picked up meat eating in different parts of the world in different set of conditions. And then now, with the present understanding and human conscious effort, knowing that what we should eat and what we should not eat, the human race has to now embark on a different future of not eating meat at all. That's why I use the word beware. Human being is not born to eat meat.
Yes, sir. And you have talked about the effect of glyphosate, which
Yeah,
are
that
sprayed
is a
on these.
specific, glyphosate is a chemical which is actually evolved over a period of time when this Vietnam and Americans fought war. And the Americans were not able to win over Vietnamese. They thought they were fighting guerrilla war, and then they just wanted to decimate the forests in which these Vietnamese fighters were hiding. So they had an agent called Agent Orange, it is called 2,4-dichlorophenol, which is actually a very deadly chemical, which actually destroys the protoporphyrin, which is basic unit of our hemoglobin as well as chlorophyll. So these two units, biosynthesis is blocked with this 2,4-D. And based on that experience, for the last 30-40 years, many pharmaceutical as well as agricultural companies have evolved this water dissolvable herbicide called glyphosate on the principles of 2,4-D. Okay, so it's now we have a dangerous chemical that dissolves in water such that you can make the chlorophyll not present in all the plants that are there. Only soybean, which has been infused with the gene to produce an enzyme to destroy the glyphosate. So when I spray on soybean plant, the soybean plant alone can destroy this glyphosate, and all other plants do not have this capacity. So the whole soil and its nutrients, everything is left for soybean alone. And now this glyphosate is present in with the soybean that you are eating, the residues. So what does this residue do? Once it enters your body, it starts playing with your protoporphyrin system of hemoglobin. Hence, we have found a lot of blood cancer patients who have been consuming this. And then once you have one cancer, it can just metastasis into different places. So that's why I keep telling soybean, please do not even utter the word.
And all these days we have been giving so much of soya milk to kids, thinking that it is
this is what I
a good
mean,
source
the
of
so-called
protein.
scientific myths. Yes, scientific myths they create because they want to sell this humongous amount of soybean that they produce to feed animals, and what is left over they want to still make money. And this is what we have been cutting forest after forest. Brazil, Argentina, they have been producing this soybean for this meat industry in huge quantities. Even California, Florida, everywhere this mayhem is going on. Environmental degradation is because of this kind of so-called genetically modified organisms, GMOs. On the same note, this corn is again manipulated to have higher amount of fat, so that the mix of the soybean and the corn gives high fat content in the animals that they have been fed, so that they can accumulate the fat and meat faster rates. So the chicken, instead of putting on 2 kilos, 3 kilos weight in 2 years. Now it is done in 2 months. The same thing with pigs. Instead of 3 years to accumulate 300 kilos, they accumulate in 3 to 4 months. So these are all the so-called tricks that the present day biotechnology has been throwing its wand around and creating all these horrific things. And that's what I've been trying to warn the human race, that please do not feed your kids. Not only that, the remaining parts of these animals, the fat, all these things are finding themselves into the vegetarian plates in the form of bakery and this and that. So these are all things that are being completely under the carpet. No one wants to be informed, or no one wants to inform, both.
Yes.
Well, once you get used to these conveniences, you do not care. I have seen a lot of my so-called Brahmin friends, when I try to talk about these things, hey, you're all imagining, you're all, don't worry about it. Let us just enjoy coffee and bread and biscuit and cake. So I do not know what to tell, because what are these guys? They think, oh, we are Madhvas, we are Smartas, all this they keep talking. But then they keep enjoying their so-called biscuit, coffee, and in fact, they dip it into the tea and then, oh, it's very nice, chocolate, all these things. I feel very funny when in such situations, and I only can just warn them, because I cannot tell anything more than that. So the same thing I have been talking about in public platforms and informing them the real things that go on, which is sometimes very inconvenient for economic model people. I mean, they are making money out of that. So it looks very difficult for them to listen and digest the fact.
Yes, and what about the seafood, sir? Because the fish is believed to be a very rich source of omega-3 or omega-6 or 9 fatty acids.
We can make all of them. Let's not worry about fish. How is it possible that you can give fish to everyone? Only the so-called coastal areas may get. And unless you have all these preservatives and all kinds of chemicals being dumped on this, you cannot process and give the so-called omega acids to all the people in the world. What nonsense are these guys talking? So let fish make, they have to live in different conditions. So they create their biochemicals, their physiological conditions. What we need, we can make them. So your omega acid, all those things can be happily synthesized in your own body with the help of the gut microbes. So let's do something about gut microbes and our symbiotic living, healthy coexistence. Let's talk about that rather than this small specific thing that you find there that is very important for you. No, a lot more things are more important than just that omega acid. Let's not worry to kill the animals because it has got omega acid. Oh, what if I say, oh, the bear in its liver has a lot of vitamin, so I'll go and kill the bear and start taking the thing? But you can as well simply sit in the sun and get vitamin D. What the hell are you talking about? So this is the bias that I'm talking. So these books, the curriculum has been talking only in that tone. Why not they talk about this way? So when I said you all can get immunity just watching the rising sun, people laughed at me. Oh, what is this fellow talking? And that is the perfect science. Only now people are understanding. There is no better way than that. And if at all you want, there is one more way, as I have explained to you many places, dried mushrooms. There is ergosterol in the fresh mushrooms, which turns into vitamin D. And sadly, another important problem with this so-called vitamin D that the people are taking in terms of, they're actually cyanocobalamin. What you need is methyl one. You cannot synthesize methyl group attaching to that. So cyanoid HCN is a very easy to attach. So they are simply dumping cyanocobalamin, which is not the real vitamin B12 that we really need. But then if you see the literature, oh, it's vitamin D is good, this is good, this is, will fortify, do this, do that. What are they talking? The real thing is different. And what these people can make, they're talking it is the best. So these are the problems that we have with the present day scientific world. I will say that it has to be natural. There is no need for any supplement, and all our efforts and science and understanding and the experiments should be to fortify how each and every human being can get these things naturally. That should be our research. That should be our effort.
Like how we fortify the mushrooms by drying
Yes,
them in the sun.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's what actually, it's a tradition in all the countries where there is no sunlight for hours, months together. They get it in and sun dry in when there is sun. Actually, I think 2 or 3 months they have sun. In fact, they all work completely in the 2 months to accumulate the mushroom and then dry them and then store them nicely in actually they used to store them in some stone vessels or something like that in those countries earlier. Now we have the ceramic stuff and glass and other wonderful materials right now. So I still want to tell all these so-called apartment living city dwellers and night nishacharas, like the software fellows who are not willing to come out into the sun, or they say they are very busy, they cannot come. And all these big cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Madras, they are not having enough time to get up in the morning and show themselves to the sun. So all these guys should buy 2 or 3 kilos of mushroom and dry it up and store them in airtight glass thing, and then once or twice a week they can soak these mushrooms and make curry or soup or whatever they want, they can make and then eat, and you will have your vitamin D. And in fact, this vitamin D is made a big mess out of these so-called allopathy doctors. It is as simple as that. Once in a week or twice in a week, if you expose yourself in the morning sun for 20-30 minutes, you have enough vitamin D. It will go and settle down in your liver and it will keep supplying for you for the whole week. So if not the whole day, all the days of the week, at least 2 or 3 days in a week, you make a habit of getting up in the morning and seeing the rising sun, and if not in the morning, evening. So it is so simple, and we do not want to do that. We want tablet, we want this, we want, and this is the habit that this industrial food culture is creating. And that's what I am very badly, I'm very badly affected, because when simple things are there, the scientists are not talking about it. What if all the scientists, what if all the doctors speak like this, the way I am speaking? Not that they should follow me. Everyone is creative and they can inculcate their own understanding and knowledge and start educating people, which is not being done, which is very sad. And I feel very agitated when these things happen. Yeah.
Yes, but many non-vegetarians, they're like arguing that animal protein is a complete protein and the plant protein is incomplete, as it does not have all the essential
which is a myth.
acids.
Which is a myth. So once you understand the importance of gut microbes and other physiological reactions, you know that we can synthesize and produce all that we need in our own body. Very simple. See, can you believe this people's presumption that we cannot do certain things? When a microbe can do everything that it wants, why not we do? I mean, it's such a complicated physiological system that we have generated. And with the complex brain neural networks, all these things, and if people still keep talking that we cannot do this, and it's amazing how biased these guys are. So it's a scientific myth that they have been creating. It's just like I keep telling in my lectures that calcium is coming from the milk, which is absolute nonsense. You don't get any calcium from the milk. In fact, it is the fermented milk, that is buttermilk, that can give you the calcium. And I have told you, sesame seed is the loaded material of nature to give you calcium. And if you watch, all the civilizations, all the people in the world have been using sesame seed without any problem all over the world. You go to Nigeria, you go to England, you go to America, you go to Gulf countries, everywhere sesame seed has been there in the traditional cookings. Why the hell do you think it is there? It's because the people have, they might not have said calcium is there, 10 grams, this, that, and all, but they know not eating. And not only that, lot of immune building systems and autoimmune diseases can be regulated by these kinds of systems. You know, a lot of good things are there in oils, especially Niger seed oil, sesame seed oil. I may be going off the track, but actually the answer is there in this knowledge that we are all seeking for. So it's not just this much only. See, a thing in nature has many dimensions, many dimensions. So sleeping in the night in dark also is a humongous amount of research has to be done. See, it is the serotonin. If there is dark, it will convert to melatonin, which is melatonin is very important for a deep sleep state. And that particular time period from 11 to 3, that deep sleep state, the circadian circle, very important to have melatonin in higher amount. And it's not good to have melatonin in the daytime, then you will feel sleepy, and that's what you have. Yeah, exactly. This is the problem. So people are not sleeping in the night because they have light and they have screwed up the circadian cycle. So all these things are going on. You know, it's regularly scientific myths. These industrial food scientists are creating. Very bad. Very bad.
Yes, and one more doubt, sir. In one of the lectures given by you recently in Pragati Resorts, you have said that the rearrangement of these amino acids, which we derive from plant-based foods, is much easier compared to the animal source.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you please elaborate on that?
You see, when you digest, you have the protein digesting enzymes in our body, which have got particular chain links to be broken and create a pool of amino acids, either individual amino acids or a set of links of amino acids, smaller peptides they're called. So if the whole peptide can be set and made into a protein to our body, it will take the whole thing. And if it has to divide into smaller units, it will divide. So our body knows, our genes, our sequences know where to cut, where to do, what to do. Now you take, say you have eaten chicken. So, but the chicken has made the meat according to its requirement. So now we don't necessarily to have the digesting for that particular amino acid sequence. So this problem comes. So the original proteins are the plant proteins. The whole world knows that proteins are made not by animals. It is the plants, again with the help of microbes, fixing nitrogen and then supplying your amino acids are made in the plants. Am I right? So first thing that you should know is the basic source of proteins and amino acids are the plants. So why are we going to the secondary sources or tertiary sources? Let's go to the primary source, and we know we have the genetic information required for that. So why to create more stress on our system? So being a vegetarian and trying to gather the food materials that have protein content and supply the amino acid pool directly instead of indirectly. You see the point. And actually, this is the point that we create stress by not eating the right food. And once you have stress, the cells become morbid. The morbidity transforms itself into toxic chemicals. And hence we load ourselves with diseased condition. So if you want to be at ease, You want to be natural. And that's why I'm against even with the supplements, vitamins, minerals, all the packed up and then dump into our mouth. That's not right. We need to source them in situ. That is the point. We need to go in deep there and then. All the microenvironment is created. We synthesize, take it up, be done with it. And this is, and you see, sun and darkness have a lot of important role to play in our physiology. And we are screwing up by our lifestyle. Actually, your questions is not one question. It is connected. All these things are connected. So people may think I'm blabbering a lot of things, but one question calls for all these explanations. I hope people understand what I'm talking. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And my final question, sir, it's eggs. Most of them say that it's a cheap source of protein and fats. And
Yeah,
they are the one among the foods which have a highest biological value too. So what do you have to say on that, sir? Why do you discourage on the consumption of eggs?
Yeah, same problem. We have absolutely the egg proteins are meant for, if it is from chicken, it is for chicken. And if it is duck, it is duck egg, you know. It's like the same simple logic of cow gives milk for calf, not for your baby. And you give milk for your baby. Okay. So the protein and the fat material accumulated are fine-tunedly designed for the next coming bird to appear. Am I right?
Yes.
So now how do you think that is cheap protein? What do you mean by cheap? Because you can make these injections and make it tapak fall 100 or 200 in 3 weeks.
Because we can
This
buy.
is yeah. So what are you talking? Be cheap. It's not cheap for the animal to produce that. It is going through the hell a lot of biochemical processes. Just like to produce milk, when you give a birth to a baby, you humongous set of biochemical reactions are leading to this particular moment of delivering the milk through your nipple to the baby when the baby sucks your nipple and the things are delivered. You know, it's a wonderful thing. So you are now turning everything into the money and say this is cheap protein. What are you talking? So there is a lot of kalakai, that is our groundnut. Much wonderful protein is available cheaper than your eggs. Cheaper than your eggs. Now, why don't these people talk that you give a fistful of groundnuts to all the people, to all the kids? It's easier, cheaper, everything in any way you talk. Because this industrial foods, they are producing that, they will claim, oh, this is the cheap, because they are really ready to take over the whole school system. They are giving eggs in India. Can you believe this? Why should we? And no scientists, no doctors are talking against it, which we should be vociferously stopping this barbaric act, according to me.
In all midday meals,
Meals they are giving.
it is
See,
compulsory.
they're producing virally infected these eggs, and then the reminiscence of all these chemicals, the glyphosate and everything is loaded there. And you want to create toxic and carcinogenic conditions in the bodies of the babies? Now, what are these guys have to answer my question? Are we willing to do that? Is that what not going on? So let's be using our brains. What is going in will create bad effect. So you want to be clean. Let's produce clean food naturally. It is also easy. It is also cheap. What's wrong with groundnuts? What's wrong with moong dal? What's wrong with urud dal? Why no scientist, no food scientist talking about this? Why? So you ask me one question, I can ask 10 questions the other way around. I'm not going away from answering. I have answered you why we should not do that. And I am actually going to ask you 10 more questions. Why are we not doing these things? So all these guys are asking, oh, this is cheaper. I'm telling you, I can provide you cheaper protein, cleaner protein. Am I right? So why
Yes,
are we not talking
Yes.
about it? Why are we not talking about it? So
Yes, sir.
people
And
keep
also,
asking me these questions. I'm not against, I'm very happy to answer these questions, because at least this way people understand what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing. I'm glad you're asking all this, but I'm excited actually. Instead of asking me how to cure thyroidism, how to cure Parkinson, which we have already given the protocols for every,
yes, sir, we
almost
have,
every possible disease we have figured out actually.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And one should understand the importance of eating these Siridhanya grains to keep away from these
Yes.
diseases, because these are the
Yes.
only grains which have a sustained release of glucose into our body.
Absolutely. The sustained release of glucose into the blood is the key for all healthy living.
Yes, sir. And
In
sir,
fact, just a day before yesterday, one person came and said, oh, we have low glucose values. However much you eat, it is the boy is going down and he gets fits, and every 1 hour they keep to alarm and then keep feeding the baby in the night. Otherwise he'll get fits. I told him, don't worry, just give him ambali before he sleeps and he will not wake up till in the morning. Within 3 days, the boy started sleeping. 3 days. And they said G6 phosphate, that enzyme is not there. That's why this is happening. This is a big, genetically there is this problem that, okay, let there be genetic problem. I care two hoots. If you sustainably, you pass the glucose into the blood slowly and steadily, then there is no such problems at all. And after, now it's been 8 months, that boy is happily growing. Not even once he had any problem. They have been, and the parents also are sleeping in peace. So
yes, sir.
this way or that way, to control or to maintain. So going down, glucose levels are going down. Oh, so if you eat millets, the glucose levels, no, they don't go down. It maintains the balance. And that is the beauty of having the fiber to carbohydrate ratio in single digits in these 5 wonderful positive grains. Yes. So we have already got the wonderful experiment. This I have not done. A patient came saying this, and then we did this, and the boy is happily living. So where is the genetic problem now? That means it is corrected. In the first place, it's not there because you're eating all wrong things. It is coming into the forefront. And when you eat the right fruit, it just goes down into the background. It doesn't, there's no problem.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
And sir,
glad you asked that question. Yeah, glad you asked that question. Yeah.
now you've been saying that the plant-based protein is easily digestible compared to the animal protein. But coming to the arrangement, I mean, the length of the intestines in our bodies, if you see the length is more in the herbivores compared to those of carnivores. I mean, if the
Yeah.
processing of food of the plant-based food is simpler, then why are we having a larger intestine inside?
It's not large,
to the,
it's not large, it is lengthier.
the small
It's not large.
intestine, but the length is
No, that is, it is not connected to the size. It is the way it is arranged. You need to understand. You have lengthier because for the absorption, it is the large intestines that absorb a lot. Small intestines do something, and the large intestine processing of the toxic waste and all things should see. That is actually another important reason people should understand. We have not been concentrating on eliminating the waste. And that's why we have lengthier, larger intestine. Large intestine is also there. No? Small intestine is there, and then large intestine is also very big. So the processing of removing of the small intestines are doing both jobs. One, absorption, and then elimination. Both are doing. But then there is a specific large intestine, completely 90% of it is in eliminating toxic things and then separating the good things, the remaining nutrients and all these things are clearly pointing towards a vegetarian meal for human beings. So that way you should also mention then the mandible or this teeth, arrangement of teeth. We don't have the incisors, and we actually slowly eat, whereas carnivores gulp. They don't grind, and they don't have the teeth movement parallel to the ground. All these things are there. So man has to evolve into a human being. All these things are involved in what I'm speaking. So we are born as man, but by the time we die, we should be perfect human being. That's man means both man and woman. Yeah.
Dr. Khadar sir says that we need 50,000 liters of water to grow 1 kg of meat, which can be fed to 5 people. On the contrary, we can grow 166 kg of any Siridhanya grain using this 50,000 liters of water, which can be consumed by 1,660 people. This means that water consumed is 332 times more in case of meat. He even says that you can harvest any amount of water, but it will be of no use unless you change these important water guzzling habits of human race.
We Biophilians thank you, sir, for giving your precious time and clearing all our doubts. We hope to have many more sessions with you in future too. Thank you.